Good morning, South Africa, and welcome to State of the Nation, where we take an honest and unfiltered look at the actual state of this country. If you enjoy the conversation, please support this channel by liking and subscribing, and join in the conversation by leaving a comment. We want to build a community for all South Africans that transcends race and gender and adds positively to the national dialogue. When the news broke that Tourism South Africa was in the final stages of signing a R1 billion sponsorship deal with the English soccer club Tottenham Hotspur, it was met with a significant amount of outrage. R1 billion is a lot of money, and most people opposed to the deal feel the money could be better used inside the country. Very little is known about the deal to date, as it has reached this advanced stage without the general public knowing about it. Let's take a look at tourism generally for a moment. Before the COVID lockdowns, around 10.2 million tourists visited the country each year. On average, they each spent around $591. That is at least $6 billion injected into the economy. Then COVID destroyed the tourism industry, and in 2021, only 2.3 million tourists arrived. Meaning the country lost around $4.6 billion, or at the current exchange rate, 78 billion rand. Now, back to the Tottenham Hotspur deal. So far, we know that the almost R1 billion Tourism South Africa will pay is for a 3-year sponsorship deal. The stated goal of this sponsorship is to bring in 21 million tourists, presumably over 3 years. Now, if that goal was to be achieved, and each of the 21 million tourists spent $591 in our country, the economy would be boosted by $12 billion over 3 years, or 68 billion rand per year. If the R1 billion investment were to yield a return of 21 million tourists, it would bring in around 200 billion rand. A massive return on investment. However, before we get too excited about this, we must ask a few questions. Is the 21 million tourists a plausible return? Has Tourism South Africa conducted feasibility studies on this investment? How will the success of this investment be gauged? We can't just assume that every tourist that arrives is a result of this deal. Tourism numbers might return to pre-COVID levels organically, meaning this deal should add 21 million tourists to pre-COVID numbers. Currently, we don't know enough to come to an informed conclusion. It's very easy to be outraged when we hear about the South African government spending massive amounts of money, because their track record is terrible. Perhaps the lesson we should learn from this is that South Africans need to gather facts and know the whole story before we jump to opinions. We tend to have knee-jerk reactions to events long before we have all the facts, often leading to the popular view being wrong. The only way South Africans can make better choices in the future is to gather all the facts and know both sides of the argument before we pick one. Let's stop being a knee-jerk nation. If you want to know more about what is happening in the world, check out our sponsor's book, The Ministry of Truth, by Ethan Quinn. This book explains how identity politics is used to manipulate society.
Despite the propaganda, this is not a struggle between people of diverse cultures, races, or genders. In reality, the culture war is taking place to decide the fundamental question of our time: what sort of society do we want?